It's not 100% true that he's never worn women's clothes. All through high school, probably somewhere back in the midst of time, even before high school, God knows when this idea should. He had this idea. He knew he wasn't going to go to college. He's pretty dumb and barely graduated high school. So his future was always basically been at best rising through the ranks at Walmart to become a manager, and then to die of a corporate heart attack at age 50. He was never going to move to New York and become an actor. He has a blog about film that he took seriously for a minute. He hasn't updated it with anything substantial for like 6 months because he keeps watching these stupid movies with Nicole that he doesn't care about. The point is, although high school, he could not wait until he could graduate and get his own apartment where he could have a closet full of dresses. Whatever the fuck is wrong with him, it isn't that he's a transvestite. He has no idea how to wear a dress. But when he had his own apartment, everything would change. He thought he'd be able to order dresses off the internet and then have them in his apartment and then wear them whenever he wanted. He started working at Walmart when he was 16 because he knew it would take a minute to get promoted and start making more than minimum wage. He was going to need to be able to afford not to have a room, so he wouldn't even have to just dress up in his room. He was going to invest in really thick curtains, a bunch of mirrors, and then his phenomenal wardrobe, all the most absurd, frilly, and short and sexy and demure dresses. And then he could wear them all the time, and then figure out what to do from there, like not transition. After all, most women in the real world don't even wear dresses much. He wasn't transsexual, he just wanted dresses. It was a vague plan. Then life got in the way. Isn't that what you're supposed to say when you're super old, not when you're 20? It did though. First Nicole asked him out, and he didn't have a good reason to say no. Plus he likes her, plus having a girlfriend. It's not that far off from having a bunch of dresses. Nicole never really wears skirts anymore, even when he tries to hint that it would be cool if she did. She's more of a brown sweater, tight jeans, hipster glasses, and pitsy haircut than a pin-up 50s dress lingerie type. And at first it wasn't even complicated. Her ass in his lap got him all hard, and he was like, oh, maybe that's gynophile stuff. It's just kid stuff, and now I can be a man, which actually felt kind of gross. On top of that, how the fuck do you get dresses? You can't just go online and order a dress. You have to know what size you are. You have to measure yourself. But how do you measure yourself? You can't just buy a measuring tape at Walmart where you work. Somebody would notice and ask what you're going to do with it. The metal tape measure from the tools department doesn't work. James tried, and then even if you just guess that you probably wear a size large, you might have the most depressing experience in the world when you try to test out that theory. He ordered one. There's a dress in the back of James' closet that nobody has ever noticed before. Why would anyone go into his closet? It seemed inevitable that Nicole was going to go looking for a belt to borrow or something and find it, and James is not going to have an explanation for why a dress, which not only can't he fit into, but also would have to be about a foot longer to even cover anything. It's hung up between his 2 suit jackets and a single pair of Kankakee pants. The first week that he had an apartment, he ordered this dress online. He was like, freedom! I can finally order myself my first dress. He ordered it for eBay. The idea was that he's being responsible. It isn't slutty, it isn't pink, and it's not even supposed to be short. It's navy blue with white piping, and spent the week after he ordered it, which he did in the middle of the night. Cold sweat click of the buy now button, panicking that it was going to be shipped in a box labeled dress and left out in the front of his door of the apartment. It wasn't though, just a plain brown box in front of his apartment after work one day. He took it inside, grazing his shallow little breast, and tried to cut it open. His hands didn't work. And a fork worked okay to poke through the tape and start some tearing, but he had to find his sharp knife to cut all the tape open. Then the box was in his kitchen counter, next to the plates with crusts of pizza and grease on them, open like a present, and it wasn't even scary, and it was already sad. First of all, he should have hidden the box until after Nicole had come over that night and left. She was on her way over any minute. Second of all, you could immediately tell that this wasn't the dress he thought he ordered. The dress that was in his head, the dress in his head was cute. It made him look like he had a waist. It was cool, sort of a hipster Jackie O thing. This dress in the real world, though, was clearly someone's dead grandmother's church dress. It was boxy and square, a thick, almost terry cloth kind of fabric. The piping wasn't cool, it was stupid. He didn't even take it out of the box. He just closed the box and buried it under a couple of old Converse boxes in the back of the closet, and walked over to the computer, sit down, looked at some pervert stuff until Nicole came over. She even knew something was wrong when she got there. She was like, "Are you okay? You're breathing really fast and it looks like you're gonna cry." "Nah," he said, "nah, I just read something really messed up about baby seals." Fucking ridiculous. After she came over that night, after they had sex, and then after she went home, he did try it on. It looked like a skirt and a jacket, but it wasn't actually just one piece. A dress. Maybe he'd already come once that night, or because the dress was so ugly and stupid, or maybe because his ribs were all full of disappointment and helium, whatever it was, he didn't even get turned on when he tried it. He had expected to. The whole point of actually getting the first dress was to satisfy this impulse that was all supposed to be sexual. He doesn't have a full-length finger or anything, but he could barely figure out how to get it over his shoulders into it. And then it tangled around his ribs and armpits, and he was worrying that he was going to stretch it out and ruin it. Wouldn't it be a tragedy to ruin such a beautiful thing? But eventually he got into it and felt properly dumb than he had ever felt before. There was tons of room and drape in his hips, and his stomach, even though it barely even exists, bulged down in front of the dress. He realized that he probably hadn't known what he expected to feel when he tried this dress on, but it certainly wasn't this emptiness verging on boredom biting up against wanting to die. But he had it, and this is what he'd wanted. So he checked to make sure the front door was locked, and then checked to make sure all the side doors were locked, closed all the blinds, and smoked the rest of the weed that he had, sitting on the futon in the stupid dress, feeling like an idiot. And then even when he was really, really high, he didn't stop feeling fucking stupid. He tried to jack off, and it didn't work. This is how James knows he's on a gynephile act instead of a transvestite. Cross-dressing seems exciting in theory, but in practice it is the saddest and most disappointing thing in the world. That should have been the end of his career as a transvestite, but the next night Nicole was doing something else, who knows what, so he didn't jack off it all day. And then he tried to dress on again at like 11 o'clock and managed to come that time, but it felt even worse than jacking off over the stupid internet caption porn. Like, he came, but there was barely an orgasm, there was no euphoria, and then he was just like, what the hell? Am I not a transvestite? Do I not like dresses? Do I just have a fetish you can't even do in your life, like getting turned on by getting eaten by slutty giants? He couldn't make sense of it, so he buried that dress in the back of his closet for good. He didn't throw it out because it would be even worse to throw it out. Maybe somehow the situation could be salvaged. Doubtful, considering how much he hates this dress. But he can't bring himself to get rid of it. The same melancholy and depressing feeling that characterized the whole dress incident culminated in this feeling that he couldn't ball it up and throw it under a bunch of stuff in the back of the closet. So he hung it up, even though he hated that dress. He liked the idea of having it back there in the closet. I don't gotta find a man.